What you don't put behind you becomes the rest of your life.
The name of the film is Brothers in Arms. I'm here with actor, writer, producer, director, Jordan Charles. Jordan, welcome to the party here. So excited to talk to you about Brothers in Arms.
I appreciate it, Scott. Thank you. And thank you for being here as well.
The first question is always the obvious one, but of course it is, how did this come about and how long ago did this come about?
The original screenplay that I wrote for the feature, we're probably talking like 4 or 5 years. Probably even longer than that, the gestating, thoughts in the mind. But I mean, yeah, to get to this point, we're probably looking at more than half a decade.
What were the underlying themes that are present in the film that you felt like, we've got to tell the story? This is a story that not only deserves a short, but a long.
Broken family, divided family, that's always been something, and I've got personal things that have happened in my own life as well with regard to our own family. That was something that I've always wanted to explore in the narrative form. And there were seminal films that, took these themes as well that I really wanted to harken back to. I think those are the two primary underlying factors to write it.
Okay, well, when it comes to seminal films, I certainly know which films I thought of when I was watching it, but what were some of the films that inspired you to sort of do an alternate take on those themes?
100% Michael Mann, Heat.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's probably on everybody's short list.
Yeah.
The Departed in '06, No Country for Old Men was very, very inspirational as well. I like cinema where you've got archetypal characters, and usually they're either on opposite sides of the spectrum or the law. Maybe one's operating in the margins, the other one maybe is more upright and orderly. And I like it when you have to explore that dichotomy of how are they going to interrelate. And then, you throw in themes like redemption or brokenness and having to overcome. These are things that make for impactful cinema, in my opinion.
When it came to writing the screenplay, how long till you got a version that was ready to shoot?
Yeah, so, I'm not going to speak for other writers, but writing is really a rewriting process, right? I've probably written that feature-length screenplay probably about 37, 40 times.
Oh, wow.
Because you want to make sure that you're focusing on every scene to make sure the characterization that you're trying to explore, or maybe whatever's happening in the narrative at a given point in the script, how does it affect the pacing? How does it affect where you want characters to eventually unite? Are you experiencing the other people in the saga, like the supporting characters? Are they getting their own sense of their world? There are a lot of things that go into that, and I think that it just constant keyboard work to try to get that going with the thoughts in your mind.
So when you finally got to that point where, like, okay, we're ready to do this, like, what are the next steps? Everybody's got a different story to tell. Did you secure casting other than in addition to yourself, or to help get the financing, or did you get the financing, then get the cast, and then get the crew? Like, what were the next steps for you?
So I played Nick Destino in the actual film, and I always wanted to write the project as an acting vehicle to try to advance my acting further in the film industry. I always knew that role was going to be posited for myself. There's a lot of things that character goes through that I've gone through. We imbued a lot of the casting with people that I actually came up with within the Bear and Brown studio for the Dramatic Arts in Santa Monica.
Oh, I see.
And then we added other people in the industry as well. But the casting wasn't the first thing that we actually tackled to make sure that it was in place. It was actually more figuring out how are we going to film on a modified budget to make sure that this is realized in the manner that really heralds it as the story that we want to tell. And I think bringing in the locations in Los Angeles to really reflect something in that mode of Heat or The Departed or even some shades of No Country that we tried to explore as well. I don't know if we accomplished that to the fullest degree possible, but we tried.
I actually want to go back to what you were saying about sort of creating an opportunity for yourself here, because this is a great business, but it's very challenging and competitive, and it's tough to break in. And there have been so many great stories over these decades of whether it's actors or directors or filmmakers who created opportunities for themselves in a way to create more opportunities for themselves. What was it about this particular story, about playing Nick, that you felt this is really the opportunity that I'm going to make for myself, and this is a great character to really showcase my talents, especially as an actor?
I'd probably answer it the personal underpinnings first, right? So you have to write based on what you know, what's personal to you. My parents were Italian immigrants after World War II. My grandfather became a POW. He went to Argentina.
Oh, wow.
He never went back to Italy. So the effect of losing a father in a family that will have underpinnings for the next 2-3 generations.
Sure.
My other grandfather was almost like something out of the Hurt Locker. He belonged to like a bomb disposal unit. So he left, everyone in his unit pretty much died. They got blown up very, very sadly, which aptly happens in war. He ended up trying to seek out where are we going to actually migrate the family to. So I've got these stories growing up of divided family or the separation of my family. And I felt that this is something that I had to express.
Sure.
Because it felt very, very cathartic, even the way that my father was raised without a father, and that also affected my relationship with him. I think that being the underlying focus of how do I explore that in a narrative so that others can feel in the telling of the story. And that was very important that we would get that right so that it resonated with authenticity. You know, if you look at a lot of the seminal films, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio or Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, they choose their roles very, very carefully.
Certainly.
And they're more likely to work with a lot of the greater directors in cinema, the people that I put on a pedestal at least. And everyone brings something to the directing field. But I wanted to explore within that kind of motif of broken family, how a person can persevere through that. But then when they have to reconnect back with the family that they came from, it's never going to be on the terms that they want. So we really tried to fashion a storyline that actually showed that type of a conflict taking place.
So you really had a lot of points of connection to play Nick. But because you did have so many points of connection, what was that experience like for you? And as an actor, what were some of the challenges to actually do that, especially since it did tap into something so personal?
Yeah, you know, there were times on set where you're playing the character, and obviously when you're on set, your preparation is there that you're recognizing, okay, that you're adopting someone else's story world. There were things that came out of me that I didn't anticipate. There are even like spontaneous moments of anger in scenes, or sometimes the words would hit me in a certain way. And I actually, in this project, even wrote the words. You don't know, but you have to relent to what happens in the moment to allow you to feel a certain way and then just ride with that current of emotion. That translated really well in a lot of scenes in terms of where I thought we were going to plan and then where it went because of what I was feeling. And I'm sure the other actors felt a certain way as well. You'd have to ask them, but they indicated to me as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the collaboration that maybe change the story a little bit. You want your actors to play great roles, but you know they also bring a lot of ideas to the story that might change it a little bit. Did that happen at all?
Absolutely. I think it happens on every project. In this one, we had great collaboration. My co-director, Ibrahim Nada, Courtney King, our producer, I wanted everyone to have a voice to make sure, like, take a look at the script. Does this make sense? Does this resonate when, you know, we're showing it out in a scene where we're actually playing out the moments or motifs? In some cases where we actually had to cut out certain things that actually weren't working. We shot 21 scenes in 16 locations. And I think the film itself has maybe 12 or 13. There were other things that we shot that I'm like, as a filmmaker, you want to make sure that they're shown, but they actually didn't fit because we did go in different directions. And some people that we actually cast actually took their scenes and elevated them to a certain degree where we actually had to show them in that light because it actually furthered the story even more.
So 16 locations, over how many days?
We shot off and on because of our modified budget.
Sure.
I mean, I don't even want to say how much we shot this for, but it's a coup d'etat, the fact that we were able to do it. And that's because people worked on overdrive. Everything that's good in this film, I always say, is because of the commitments that everyone else put in. Like, anything that's bad, put it on my shoulder. That's fine.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, I would say it took about a year to a year and a half for the shooting phase to fully take place. And then we had COVID after in post-production. We were beset by a lot of delays, but it was a very, very marginalized and extenuated shooting schedule.
Talk to a lot of filmmakers is, you know, I mean, like you hear that they shot their movie in like 18 days or 13 days or a month, but it was consistent. You know, you had to start and stop. So what are the challenges like that to get the band back together, to get back into character?
Continuity is a very important element in filmmaking.
Sure is.
You know, you want the same crew and then the same cast that's there to make sure that everyone's seeing things a certain way. And then momentum is a huge feature.
Sure is.
As well, because you might be like, okay, I'm on this like evocative emotional point or high point and I want to make sure I carry that. Then you got to stop and it's like, we're not going to film for another 2 weeks. We had to make the best of what we had to work with. But at the same time, I think people approach it with such laser focus because all the independent filmmakers that we had on this, we all had one thing in common. Everybody wants to just work in feature films. So I think people were just chomping at the bit. When's the next time we're on set? They were always asking me, when's the next location locked in? When are we going to do this? And I love the spirited nature of that, because that also fueled us as well with regard to what you see on screen.
So what a great spirit for your crew to have, to be able to come back over periods of time. So how did you find this crew, and how important was it to get a crew that was really diverse?
Everyone that we found was so zealous with regard to always being committed to the feature film landscape. And because of that, they showed up with such passion on set to make sure that we executed and delivered with the utmost capability that we possibly could. And with a segmented shooting schedule, that was very, very difficult. But with regard to the second aspect of your question, I'm really, really proud of that. Inclusivity, diversity, I mean, these have become like almost like touchstone words.
Yeah.
The action behind the word is more important than the actual phraseology. I mean, we've had women, minorities, multinationals that assume leadership positions on this film. That made my heart sing. Because there were days I looked on set, I'm like, wow, that person barely speaks English. This person just came here on a 3-month visa. Another person that this is like their second project. They've been striving so hard for 4 years to try to make it in the industry. The fact that we could be part of creating an environment for all these people to come together to collaborate, that was one of the most beautiful things that came out of this project.
That is amazing. So when it comes to, because it was a segmented shooting schedule, one particular day or one particular scene that you and your cast and your crew found the most challenging?
Oh, God. Yeah. I can remember it now. It's almost like PTSD. And I mean, no offense. I mean, no offense to anyone that's gone through that. No, I remember we shot downtown LA. There's a scene that actually didn't even make the final cut of the film. We shot there. The DIT on set, who handles all the drives, gets into a car accident, or at least his car gets hit, parked street side.
Yeah.
He's got to go down. Then we don't realize that we're running out of footage space with regard to the drives. Then we have to get all the way down to Malibu to shoot a pier scene, which is one of the more pivotal scenes in the film.
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, we're running out of time. We had time to get 3 takes, and everything you saw in the film was only 3 takes. We thought there wasn't going to be enough footage to film on. I will never, ever forget that. It's like filmmaking is problem-solving 101, and it's posited here in my mind that things like that are just going to blow up. You have to deal with them.
There are filmmakers, directors, producers that I've interviewed over the years who are so seasoned, and they've directed 30 films or they produced 50 movies.
Right.
And yet this next movie that I'm interviewing them about, there's just problems that they never had to deal with before. That is just the name of the game. And that makes it kind of scary, but also very, very exciting.
Yeah, and rewarding.
And very rewarding, especially when you get to the finished product like Brothers in Arms. So when it came to like the cut that you have, what were the themes that you really felt like, you know what, there is so much more to this. This isn't just a short. This is a feature.
One of the more important things is that we wanted to show where the 2 archetypal characters, the 2 brothers, where they came from. So we started the film to make sure that we showed their prior life, which almost seems like a landscape fantasy where they're together playing and everything is just surreal and sublime and innocent. And then it's just tragedy due to accident or otherwise that just, it creates the separation of them. And then showing where they end up later in the story where we're going to follow them the rest of the way. But the feature film itself, it explores these things in spades. I mean, you see their story world, one brother and how he's caught up in a criminal syndicate. The other brother where he's this relentless police officer that's just rising up the chain. This is meant to play in a feature film
For sure.
as a crime saga. Like something out of Heat where even the supporting characters, they have an arc, they've got a storyline, and they're going to be explored. And I can't wait to tell it in its intended form.
Over these years, since we've seen modern crime films set in Los Angeles, I'm thinking, of course, of Michael Mann, but also thinking of David Ayer.
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic. So what is it about Los Angeles that lends so much to that genre in a way that no other city does, not even New York?
I think you have to live here to really appreciate what you just said. If you go at night on Mulholland Drive and look at the valley lights, our penultimate moment in the film is the 2 brothers actually meeting. We got those lights in the background with the bouquets, and we shot an Alexa with anamorphic lenses. We wanted to capture the feel of Los Angeles for that. There's this sense here, and I don't know what it is where, I don't know if people are fantasizing, like they come here from somewhere else to become something more. And there's a lot of brooding that happens to people in this city. It happens in the creative arts. We wanted to show the sensibility of what Los Angeles, what it is, what it's meant to be, what it can become for you. But also, you might be running or hiding, or you might have lost something to arrive here. There's all types of elements that the city can provide to you that might imbue your storytelling. And I think some of that should come into play when people watch the film as well.
It's funny you mentioned, I never heard anyone say it that way, that some people came here because they lost something. But just as you said that, I've thought just over these decades of being here that I've met a lot of people who came here because they lost something. Yeah. So I think that this film definitely captures that. I just want to talk a bit just about you have a great cast here. If you just go through a couple of the main players that you worked with and just what they brought into it and how that brought out the best in you as an actor.
Vic Bagratuni, my partner in crime, we went to school together actually at the Baron Brown studio. He did a phenomenal job playing Leon. He brought his own sense to the character, even things that came off the page that I wasn't even thinking of, but I was like, I love where you're taking the character, please roll with it. And I think he lent something to this, even the scriptology that wasn't there in the beginning. Jeffrey Gilbert, we always had that role actually appropriated for Al Pacino or Robert De Niro.
Totally.
I really want to invite them to become part of the project eventually when it gets made as a feature. He brought a menace, I think, to that role. It added some potency, I think, to the scene with him and Nick in the jailhouse. Shannon Renaud, wonderful actress. She plays my girlfriend in the film. And we wanted to kind of show this kind of myopia of how they're connected from a prior relationship, but then they kind of reconnect later, but it's not the right timing for them. And Nick's got all these things happening in his own storyline. But when you see how that character in the feature, what their arc is and where they go sideways as well to show how this city is completely under fire, I can't speak more highly for the cast and what they brought to the project. Like they put their own touch points on it.
So in terms of just the goal of the short to hopefully lead to a feature, what else is next for you in the meantime?
That definitely is the number one goal. I mean, taking this now, we're bringing this to American film market, the European film market. That is the penultimate goal for us right now. It's taken all my focus and time and that of our team. We're really pushing hard to make sure we get the development and financing for that. That's first and foremost. There are 4 other feature-length screenplays that I've written to, use as acting vehicles. One is on the prescient migrant crisis that's going on. We have such displacement going on in the world, and I think that's very timely. That needs to be explored, and people need to see that for what it really is. I've got another Indiana Jones type action type film where,
fun.
Yeah, that one's kind of interesting, where this family of treasure hunters are chasing this long-lost artifact. I've got another one where it's a soldier PTSD story. He's got to reassimilate back into society, but the underlying project right now is getting Brothers in Arms made as a feature.
What kind of projects are you looking to do as an actor, in the short term?
I'm always a huge lover of independent film. I love it. I would like to do more studio films. I had a bit role in Aloha. I worked with tremendous actors there. I mean, Bradley Cooper and Emma Stone and Rachel McAdams. They're so lovely. And I learned a ton on that set as well in terms of the machinery of Hollywood filmmaking as compared to independent film. I would love to traverse both worlds. If I can act in independent films with some of the stronger independent film directors in that medium, by all means. The major studio space, the tent poles, they're making less and less films, and they're very, very concentrated on the type of filmmaking they're making. There is a strong place for that, obviously, in cinema. I would love to act in those as well, but I hope that I can carry on in both disparate worlds to do that. So
the last question is, what do you love about this business? What do you love about your profession?
Collaboration, Scott. You got to trust your partners. The fact that it's almost like, I don't know, the athletes say this, they look in the huddle and it's like, we're going to execute and we're all seeing the same vision. You're going to have to put out fires, like we said, and the collaborative spirit that goes into making something and then seeing a result and then just almost like sighing a relief saying, wow, it actually came out this way, which is different, but just as good. And I hope someone feels something from it. That's fantastic. But then you've got that split second where it's like, that was great, on to the next. Because it just doesn't stop. You're doing it for the work. I think it's a real process-oriented business versus an outcome-oriented one.
So now that we've heard all about Brothers in Arms, where can people find out more about Brothers in Arms?
Main website is fantastic. We put a lot of work into it so that people can understand what we're trying to do with the project. www.watchbrothersinarms.com. Easy one to remember. A lot of my acting work, you'll find it on actorjordancharles.com. AnnabelleEntertainment.com is our production label. So people can venture into those sites to see, new news and all the different happenings going on.
Great, awesome. Well, Jordan Charles, absolutely the very best of luck. And thank you so much for this incredible conversation about Brothers in Arms. And thank you for watching this conversation.
Thanks, Scott.